Evet, soru yok anladığım kadarıyla. Okay, now I have already stated that I will be presenting the theories of three contemporary sociologists, Ulrich Beck, Niklas Luhmann, and Jacques Lacan. I will start with Ulrich Beck, who was born in 1944, of last century, 20th century, and he died in 2015. He has written first towards the middle of 80s, and that first book was Risk Society towards a new modernity. Towards a new modernity. Now, actually, Ulrich Beck, you are familiar, I'm sure, from other courses you have taken, but also from Bauman. And Baumann's Risk Society or Uncertainty or fluid modernity approach versus solid modernity. So his second type of modernity, fluid modernity, and Beck's second modernity are similar. And also Giddenson's early modernity and late modernity, or national modernity and global modernity. So Ulrich Beck, Giddens, and Bauman, these three have similar approaches to modernity, modernization, contemporary societies. That is, they reject, although Bauman less so, the modern, postmodern dichotomy. Instead, they have, like in Bauman, solid modernity, and a more recent one, fluid modernity. In Giddens, it was national modernity, early modernity, and global modernity, or late modernity. Now, Ulrich Beck coins first modernity and second modernity. And then he goes into how these two modernities are different, why it is necessary to reconceptualize modernity, modern societies, contrasting them with the previous one. Now, first, he starts with the concept of risk, or the concept of hazards, or the concept of disaster. Now, what kind of how the societies approach to disasters, natural disasters, or, as Ulrich Beck conceptualized, man-made disasters. Now, he actually thinks of, historically, he thinks of it in three phases. Now, in pre-modern societies, natural disasters such as famines or plagues, weba, or similar illnesses, or having no rain for an extended period of time. Now, all these are beyond human control, for pre-modern societies, and hence they accept it as fate, kader. Nothing can be done about them. But first modernity, according to Ulrich Beck, the societies in the first modernity does not think so. They were so excited with industrialization and development of industrial technology, and hence greater control of nature. Industrialization presented societies with a technology that they can do something about natural disasters, natural risks. Although and it was an exaggerated hope, but still, even if disasters takes place, disaster affect. Uh, although disasters takes place, the first modernity societies in the first modernity think that they can do something about its consequences. They can do something about their consequences. That is, in a short time, they can adopt, rebuild, and adjust to new condition. How do they do that? They do it through planning, in social planning, by establishing, that is, the social planning involves establishment of security institutions. Security institutions. What are they? Security, either in Turkey, for example, whenever you enter into a work, you are insured. Insurance companies. Now, insurance companies or security institutions, together with statistics. So, for example, you insure the house, your house, when earthquake strikes, you will be every year, every month, every year, you will be paying a compulsory installment for the insurance of your house against earthquake or other disasters. So not only you can insure your house, but you can insure your life insurance companies emerged, or state actually against illness and old age. There were security institutions. You when you enter workplaces, you are registered in such a way that a part of your income, salary, is deposited in these institutions, so that when there is illness, or when there is old age, or when there is other kinds of unexpected events, there will be a sport, an institutional sport. Now, in the first modernity, science and technology were believed in such a degree that eventually societies will control nature in such a way that earthquakes will not destroy any buildings. For example, in Japan, which is an earthquake society, if an earthquake of 7.5, for example, takes place in Japan, very few buildings very few buildings are destroyed, because from the beginning, technologically, they built the housing structure is such that buildings will not be destroyed up to, for example, 8.5 magnitude earthquakes. But unfortunately, in our country, they are not able to do that. Of course, in comparison to previous periods, the buildings that are built after, for example, 1970s, when it was made, in order to build your house, you had to have a strength, a technological strength. The house should be built in such a way that it will not be destroyed with such and such degree of amplitude of earthquake. And in a later bylaws, more requirements are added to it, etc. And after 1999 earthquake, there were more guarantees added. When you are building a house, the builders, construction companies have to obey these rules. They have to build the houses according to those rules. But unfortunately, the controls of these building companies is not is not strict enough, is not regulated enough. So, as you remember, at the beginning of this year, 2023, in February, we had an earthquake in 11 provinces in southeastern Anatolia, and 50,000, more than 50,000 people were killed, and many buildings were destroyed, unfortunately. And a similar thing, we are afraid, those who live in Istanbul, we are afraid that, to what extent the building that we are living is insured against earthquake. The building, the builders, what is the percentage of iron and columns and the building material and its construction. Anyway, this was the first modernity approach to risks and to disasters, was to take precautions, to be ready for disasters, so that risk will be reduced. Now, this was, they were mostly, the first modernity thinking was mostly concerned about natural disasters. But around the middle of last century, not during 1950s, 70s, something unexpected emerged. Not only natural disasters, but man-made disasters. Now, the first man-made disaster that had a global significance was a Chernobyl disaster in Soviet Union at that time. A big nuclear plant was fell down. It was it couldn't function anymore, and hence there was a tremendous explosion of that plant, and radioactivity in Ukraine, even across Black Sea in northern Turkey, the Black Sea, Turkey, and other European countries bordering Black Sea and Ukraine. And, it was a man-made disaster worse than earthquakes or any other uh, man-made natural disasters. But it was not only that, the Chernobyl, but also there was for example, chicken pox, a flu that contacted from chicken. It was a different kind of microbe virus. And then, as you know, in 1919, no, 2019, there was another one, COVID, COVID-19. But previously, there were similar, similar man-made viruses causing an expansion and covering the whole the global population. You see, the COVID-19 was an example, covering all countries globally. No country is left out. Left out. The virus were everywhere. Why? Because our modern transportation is in such a degree that people are all over globally. Global flows of people or commodities is such that no country outside of this global network of transportation and communication, and hence, it is a global disaster, a global disaster. But not only that, the viruses, but also consumption by people of plastic material. It is in such an extent that a part of oceans, there are oceans are filled with plastic waste. There are mountains of man-made plastic under the sea, and hence life under the sea, the fish and others are now eating them or are influenced by them, and then we are eating them. So there is another. So in plant life, animal life, human life are being contaminated with with this kind of waste. Of course, nuclear waste is another one. You don't have to have a Chernobyl type of disaster for nuclear waste, because if you have nuclear plants, there is a waste that emerges out of it. Where are you going to deposit that waste? So all these in the second modernity, these questions emerged in such a way that the, the assurance of the first modernity thinking is eroded, and a new type of thinking is necessary, a new type of approach to technology, to disasters, especially to man-made disasters, has to be made. And also, in the meantime, people are more and more integrated with the communication channels, television, World Wide Web, internet, and others. So people become much more reflexive, uh, reflexively questioning. So this reflexive questioning became more and more widespread, and hence people started questioning experts, whether, although they say that, for example, a nuclear plant will not explode, but it exploded. Yeah, for example, Chernobyl. So Ulrich Beck conceptualizes all these in his first book, Risk Society, and in a second book in 1999, World Risk Society. So the first one was at the national level, how a second type of modernity emerged already in each national society, and then how, as globalization became more and more pronounced, how it became a global risk society, world risk society. Okay, so as this reflexive questioning increased, people started questioning the pollution, uh, how factories are producing so many commodities, but about their waste. Where are their smoke or other waste is thrown? They are thrown to the sea or to the land, or all these, the pollution, increasing pollution, and hence acceptable levels of pollution has to be increased more and more in order to prevent toxic threats. Uh, Toxic threat. Now, if global civil society, if global civil society became more and more conscious at the global level, it should be able to influence capital, global capital, that make investments all over the world. Now, some people think that now, if it is not in our society, if they are building factories in India or China or some other places, let them. It will not. No, it is not true, because eventually, what is happening in India or China or Latin America or even Antarctica, South or northern poles, eventually will influence all of us, all of the globe. Now, Ulrich Beck called this boomerang effect. Boomerang effect threatens everyone. It comes back to those who distance themselves from these kind of disaster creating, man-made disaster creating factories or plants or whatever, but it will come back and will hit you too. It will hit everybody. Now I don't know whether you know boomerang. Boomerang. Okay, now I talked about two things. Now, one, I have something to show to you about Chernobyl and also about the boomerang. Now, let me show you first this boomerang and then Chernobyl. Or first, let me show you Chernobyl and then let me show you the boomerang. Now, just a minute. Now, here it is. Now, let me see whether it came. Yes, it did. Now, now let me start this Chernobyl thing. Chernobyl, a sociological analysis.
This video is brought to you by Mubi, an online cinema streaming hand-picked exceptional films from around the globe. Get 1 month free at mubi.com/likestoriesofold.
What is the cost of lies? The real danger is that if we hear enough lies, then we no longer recognize the truth at all.
In 1986, a devastating accident at the nuclear power plant in Chernobyl awakened the world to an unprecedented danger that briefly threatened the existence of an entire continent. The recent HBO series recounting the story effectively and accurately communicates the struggle and consequences of dealing with this disaster. One that was all the more terrifying because it wasn't caused by forces of nature. It was man-made. It was our own doing. What you might not know is that the incident also propelled into fame the work of German sociologist Ulrich Beck, who, earlier in the same year, finished the first manuscript for a grand social theory called Risk Society.
You see, he goes into Ulrich Beck's Risk Society, the first book, how actually this already foretold that this kind of events are taking place. Okay.
That will become a bestseller in the months following Chernobyl. The theory poses that we have entered a new stage of modernity that is increasingly occupied with debating, preventing, and managing risks that we ourselves have produced, that are the direct result of our technological progress. These risks are unlike any we have faced before, both in scale and in complexity. And because they are inherently connected to many of the essential aspects of modernity, they have infected our society with a fundamental feeling of vulnerability.
This is what theory of world with society maintains.
What happened?
Scale and in complexity. And because they are inherently connected to many of the essential aspects of modernity, they have infected our society with a fundamental feeling of vulnerability.
This is what theory of world with society maintains. Modern societies are shaped by new kinds of risks and manufactured uncertainties. Their foundations are shaken by global anticipation of global catastrophes.
Looking at HBO's Chernobyl through the lens of Beck's work reveals it's not just a retelling of a past event, or a history lesson about a failed political regime. It is a series that is very much about the present, about the risks that are increasingly permeating our modern society, affecting our culture, our politics, and our spirit. So today, let's examine the story of Chernobyl, the story of how the world became a risk society.
Okay. So this is Chernobyl, how the world became a risk society through the example of Chernobyl accident, explosion, and through the book that already Ulrich Beck was preparing. So sociology, you see, sociology became a part of the second modernity. Second modernity requires sociology more than the first modernity. Of course, the first modernity also required, but second modernity required sociology more than the first modernity because it second modernity requires much more reflexiveness, more knowledge about social structures, identities, subjectivities, objectivities, economic structures, of course, together with sociology, other social sciences, economics, political science. Okay, now let me send this away and let me take you to his boomerang concept.
Moments after the incident, we immediately see one of the defining characteristics of modern risks, which is that the danger is pretty much impossible to perceive.
Okay, now this is the boomerang.
In order to be a great boomerang thrower, you have to be a scientist, you have to be an inventor, you have to be a craftsman, and you get to wear all these different hats in order to become a great athlete in the sport. My name's Logan Broadbent, and I'm a member of the world champion U.S. boomerang team.
Broadbent is one of the best boomerang throwers in the world.
When I tell people I'm on the U.S. boomerang team, the first thing that comes to their mind is, what? We have a U.S. boomerang team? You've got to be kidding, right? But it's true, and we've had the chance to travel all over the world throwing and catching boomerangs.
Boomerang throwers.
It takes a lot to do well in the sport, from making custom gear to understanding the science behind it.
You see, this is the boomerang. You see this? It is a wooden gadget like this, and when you throw it, and it comes back to you. You know, people catch birds, eagles, for example, or they catch rabbits, or you know, it is. But the thing is that you throw the instrument and it hits, you know, other animals, other objects, but then it comes back to you. Now, this is a, you know, he's doing a, you know, this is a positive aspect boomerang. But Ulrich Beck is referring that, you know, analogically, he's making an analogy to boomerang and how dumping your nuclear waste in other countries, you know, for example, England or France or Italy, sending their nuclear waste to other countries. Now, don't think that it will stay there. It will come back to you. It will have a boomerang effect. Boomerang effect. Okay, now this is really gloomy and pessimistic. Let me go to a second phase of Ulrich Beck's work. He worked on the chaos of love. Chaos of love, which is one of the books that he has written together with his wife Elizabeth. Okay, actually, it is two books. One is about this chaos of love. The other is distant love. Let me just, before I go from here, why didn't this become smaller? I did make it smaller actually, but it now just a minute. Hopefully, what's happening? Why is it not going? Sorry, a wrong button. I pushed a wrong button. Now let me send this away by pushing here. Okay, now came back. Sorry, I am already here, back. And now I am going to go into this. Okay, I was talking about two books. One is together with Elizabeth Beck-Gensheim, The Normal Chaos of Love. It talks about how in this new type of society, in second modernity, how love became a refuge, how as our lives became more uncertainty, indetermination, so people wanted to have somebody whom they can trust, whom they can trust and who can be a refuge. But paradoxically, as people needed more love, there became more vulnerability, more divorce, actually, more splitting of relationships. So it became normal that love relationships became chaotic, normal chaos of love. Now, furthermore, in their book after this one, they focused upon distant love, that is, how families became global, how through migration, a part of the family is in one country, the other part in another country, a third part in another country, and how these people are meeting with each other, the children, where they will be. One parent is here, the other parent there. They also focused on this. So they focused on, again, in the first modernity, there was a model of one household, one nationality, and one identity. But with second modernity, these models of one household, one nationality, one identity are left back. So the universality of the European model of nuclear family, one household, is, however, rethought and supplemented in the second book. Now, recent dominance of global capitalism and reflexive modernity have ushered a cosmopolitan culture that is derived and interwoven from different areas of globe and creates conflict within families. So the conflict not only increases at the global level, but also at the family level. So I will finish this presentation with two songs. Now, one song, The Genius of Love. Instead of Chaos of Love, I just found a song, Genius of Love. The time is now. The time is now. Okay, I hope I cheered you up from Ulrich Beck's depressive sociology because it focuses on disasters, man-made disasters, and increasing vulnerability, uncertainty. Now let me go to another German sociologist, Niklas Luhmann. Now, Niklas Luhmann lived between 1927 and 1998. So he's actually, he wrote his books in the second half of 20th century. Now, actually, he started as a collaborator of Habermas. You remember in the second week we talked about Habermas and his theory, how he combined systems theory, Weberian theory, Marxian theory, and a more micro phenomenological sociology. Now, Niklas Luhmann also combined systems theory and phenomenological sociology, and he departed. The two of them departed from each other. Actually, all these three, Niklas Luhmann, Habermas, and Parsons, these three, these three sociologists use systems approach. But Niklas Luhmann took systems approach beyond any other. He focused on system analysis in such a way that his theory became more and more complex, actually. Now, he uses a concept, autopoiesis, and he says that he analyzes societies, personalities and personalities as autopoietic systems. So what is autopoiesis? Now, actually, autopoiesis was first coined by Chilean biologist, Chilean biologist Maturana to explain cells biologically, to explain building blocks of organisms, cells, how a living cell comes into being, and how it divides, and an organism emerges, or an organism, how an organism continues to live for a period of time, the life of that organism. Now, he found out that there is something in the cell or in the organism that is self-centered, centering upon itself, self-generating, or okay, self-creating, auto self, like in the automobile. Now, what is poiesis? Poiesis is some kind of actually, Maturana gives an example of Don Quixote. Now, Don Quixote is thinking about whether to be an action-oriented or literature-oriented. Literature, more discourse or action, activity or discourse. And as you know, Quixote has chosen to be the active, having a war, in an out of time actor. He became a chevalier in out of time. But Cervantes himself has chosen not the action, but poiesis and literature. He has written a novel that can be read by young children and old people. There are levels of meaning. Anyway, poiesis is meaning. So autopoiesis, meaning generation, self-generation, self-constituting, self-directing. So autopoietic systems combine action, meaning, and communication. Now, in society, communication is essential. Communication. In psychic systems as well, psychic system. Now, the two systems, psychic system and social system, are complementary to each other. A social system does not exist without a psychic system, and a psychic system cannot exist without a social system. But they are two systems that are involved with each other. Actually, the two of them, and then a third. That's something that combines both of them. So systems are, as I said, social systems or psychic systems. How, in the case of social systems, how it starts with ego and the alter, two people interacting with each other. Now, two people initially, when they come together, there is a chaos. What will happen between them? What will happen between them? Now, both Parsons and Luhmann calls this a contingency, a double contingency. Through a third element, if communication starts between them, if there's a meaningful and logical integration through communication, social system emerges through circuits of communication. So there is a threefold process of communication here. There is an utterance. There is something uttered to the other person. In Turkish, it is bildirim. Bildirim. There is in this uttered utterance, there is knowledge, information, bilgi, and meaning, understanding, perception, meaning, understanding, perception. So in his most famous book, published in 1995, Social Systems, Luhmann elaborates his theory and goes, as I said, beyond Parsons and other social theories. For example, of this book, there is a chapter on this double contingency, where he writes that first he criticizes Parsons and how he says that Parsons begins with the fact that action cannot take place if the alter makes his action dependent on how ego acts. And ego wants to connect his action to alters. A pure circle of self-referential determination, lacking any further elaboration, leaves action indeterminate, makes it indeterminable. So instead, he says that a basic condition of possibility for social action, so the double contingency has to be solved, because any possibility would then, and therefore Parsons includes solving the problem of double contingency within the concept of action in such a way that he makes a normative orientation, consensus, and already these two people, when they come together, they come from a society where there is already consensus. So actually, he explains away the contingency, double contingency. But if you do not accept, if you do not assume a consensus type of society, a conflictual society, then you have to build a different solution to this double contingency. So he says that double contingency points beyond this traditional theoretical approach and promises something new. Nothing forces one to seek the solution for the problem of double contingency exclusively in an already existing consensus. Thus, in the social dimension, there are functional equivalents, for example, those in the temporal dimension. At first, after tentatively alter the other can tentatively determines his behavior in a situation that is still unclear. He begins with a friendly glance, a gesture, a gift, for example, and waits to see whether and how ego receives the proposed definition of the definition of the situation here, definition of in the light of this beginning, every subsequent step is an action with contingency reducing determining effect, be it positive or be it negative. Now, this is, he analyzes this double contingency and how it is solved. And he relates here both psychic as well as social systems level, and how the three a symbolic level of meaning, how three of them are combined. Now, I would like to show you a video. Just a minute, let me share this again. Let me share my Blackboard page where I have this autopoiesis, and here, okay, here I am. Now let me start it.
Organizational theory 2 was introduced to autopoiesis, thanks to Niklas Luhmann. Maturana and Varela, in their 1972 publication, disclosed the origin of the word autopoiesis. While exploring Don Quixote's predicament of choosing between action and creation, they appreciated the potency of poiesis, and thus coined autopoiesis, a term outlining the distinctive autonomous dynamics of living systems. An autopoietic system is described as a machine functionally defined through a network of production processes. This network, through component interactions and transformations, constantly regenerates and substantiates itself. This makes it a concrete spatial entity that specifies the topological domain of its realization. The autopoietic system creates a unique, self-contained space that is incomparable to other dimensions. In our interaction with an autopoietic system, we project this system onto our manipulative space and describe this projection. Initially, autopoiesis was proposed as a system description that characterized and explained living systems' nature. The biological cell serves as a prime example of an autopoietic system. The eukaryotic cell, consisting of biochemical components like nucleic acids and proteins, forms various bounded structures that produce components, simultaneously maintaining the cell's organized structure. According to founder of the term, Maturana, the concept of self-organization is not truly synonymous with autopoiesis due to the operational impracticality it presents. Changes in an organization entail changes in an organization entail changes in the entity itself. Autopoietic systems are even legal systems have implicated the concept, evidenced by Gunther Tübner's and Niklas Luhmann's work in architecture. Patrick Schumacher uses autopoiesis to describe the self-referential process of architecture creation. Jerome McGann, in the field of textual study, argues that textual systems with their coding and marking represent autopoietic systems, where language and Peter Schuster, Robert Rosen's MR systems, and autopoiesis was first defined by Maturana as a characteristic of an organism based on its ability to exist through its interaction with the environment. Cognition, according to Maturana, is the behavior of this organism as it relates to its own maintenance. And cognition, or indeed a living system's cognition, can be objectively linked within the inactivism perspective. An autopoietic cell actively interacts with its environment, triggering responses akin to simplified nervous system behavior and suggesting cognizance. Critics, however, have raised concerns over the original and extended use of autopoiesis, expressing skepticism over self-referential language used without external reference. For many, this comes across as an elaborate attempt to validate Maturana's solipsistic philosophy, as expressed by the statement, "We do not see what we do not see, and what we do not see, and what we do not see, does not exist." In the mainstream biological realm, Roseto, Berry points out that the impact of the concept of autopoiesis and its corresponding cognition, as outlined in the realization of the living, has been relatively minimal. He contends that...
Okay, this is one video that I found how it can be explained. Now there is another one, a shorter one actually. this was the music. Okay, let me. I was not intending this one. Okay, one more, the other one. It is this one again about.
In Niklas Luhmann's theory of social systems, the world is just chaos. But in order to deal with this chaos, we create things like the society, groups, organizations, these social systems, where we pick out certain parts of this chaos and communicate about that. These systems are autopoietic, meaning that they are sort of maintaining themselves in a sort of circular process, little nerdy enclaves. And in one sense, society as a whole is also like that, because certain forms of communication are alive, but other things that we could have discussed out of the multitude of possibilities, the chaos outside, we don't deal with. So these systems are sort of self-reproducing, and Luhmann has actually often been criticized for underestimating the role of the individual as these systems take on a life of their own.
Okay, this was also another video. Actually, in the other one, there was this mathematical. I want to share this once again, if I can, and I have to find the mathematical rings at some point. Now, where was it? Some mathematical circles, 3 circles, how they are in each of them, and then how meaning is being created. Why I couldn't find it, I don't know. Let me find it if I can. I think it was somewhere here, but I couldn't find it. Maybe at this last point. No, that's really interesting. I remember it somewhere here. Maybe, it was a good description, actually, but unfortunately, I am not able to show it now. So let me send this away. How I will do it? Just a minute. Okay, here it is.
Eukaryotic cell, consisting of biochemical components like nucleic acids and proteins, forms various bounded structures that produce components, simultaneously maintaining the cell's organized structure. In contrast, an allopoietic system, like a car factory.
Okay, now you can listen to it and maybe you will find it. I couldn't find that diagram where 3 circles are in between each other and how each of them implicates the other. It was really an interesting illustration. So I missed it. So this is the second theorist that I wanted to share with you, but I have to add that in the social system, as the double contingency is solved, then it is differentiated into functional systems, like a legal functional system or an economic functional system, or family system, or science system. You know, within the social system, there are subsystems, functional systems, and each of them has a coding. Functional systems works in such a way that they involve both structuration and coding. Structuration and coding. So you can follow it through here as well. You see structuration and coding. So in the legal functional system, there's a legal code, legal and illegal. In the art code, there is aesthetic and non-aesthetic. In the political code, there is power and opposition. So every system can only foresee or control what its codes make observable. And they are beyond their codes. They are blind. Now, Luhmann also goes into a periodization of societies. Now there are, these systems do not emerge in segmented communities or center-periphery type of differentiation or stratified societies, but in contemporary societies, there are functional systems. So here I have taken from his book Social Systems, and his last book is in German actually. It is Die Gesellschaft der Gesellschaft. Now, Gesellschaft in German is society. Remember from your other courses, Tönnies, Gesellschaft and Gemeinschaft. In English, community and society. Now, Gesellschaft and community is face-to-face and mostly people are related to each other. Now, it is a household, a village community, a neighborhood community is Gemeinschaft, whereas a large city and a society is Gesellschaft. A Gesellschaft is a rationally, commercially, and through functional systems and subsystems, Gesellschaft. So his last book is Gesellschaft, die Gesellschaft, der Gesellschaft. So Gesellschaft of society of society. So he's saying that actually contemporary societies are in such a level of systematization that the autopoiesis reach this self-generation, self-construction, reach to such a level that it creates its own knowledge. It involves, knowledge society. When we talk about knowledge society, societies and the knowledge created within those societies are imply each other. Okay, now this is the second theorist that I wanted to talk today, and I did already. Let me send this away through here. How do I do it here? Okay, now I will go into the third theorist, Lacan. Now, especially, I think it was 2 weeks ago when we talked about women sociologists, they made references to Lacan, actually, to Lacan. Now, Lacan is a psychoanalyst, but Lacan's theory has implications for the social level, for the sociological level. So I wanted to talk about his theory. Now it is, you might find it, ya hocam, why this is too much psychological? Actually, it starts from Freud. Actually, Freud also started as a doctor, as a medical doctor, but Freud eventually developed this psychoanalytical approach through which he was able to analyze subjectivity, human personality, and pathologies, psychological and sociological pathologies. And then, for example, he has written, in sociology of religion, he has written Totem and Taboo, for example. It is sociology of religion. Or he has written this book, Civilization and its Discontents. Civilization and its Discontent. And if you remember, Bauman also used Freud, when he was talking about a pendulum, how people exchanged between freedom and security. If you want more freedom, there will be less security, more vulnerability, more uncertainty, but more freedom. But if you have more security, then of course you have less happiness, less fulfillment of the desire, less freedom to do what you want to do. Remember from there. Now, Lacan rereads Freud. It's a rereading, really. He rereads Freud in such a way that how he's able to solve the symbolic ordering of social relations. The symbolic ordering, again, remember from Althusser. Actually, Althusser's approach is also a reformulation of Lacan's approach in a Marxist sociological framework. Remember his theory of ideology. His theory of ideology actually starts from Lacan's. Now, Lacan asserts three orders. Now, one order is in imaginary order, imaginary. The other is symbolic, and the third one is real, reality, that exists out there Now, reality is within actually imaginary and within is symbolic, but still symbolic and imaginary, the two spheres or two orders, were not able to encompass reality as a whole. There is a large proportion of reality that is not captured. Remember from your again introductory courses on sociology, talking about Freud. When Freud talks about consciousness and unconscious, how consciousness is only 1/3, like an iceberg, and the other part unconscious. So reality, the real, a part of the real is unconscious, and other organizations and nature, the real. So first, imaginary. Now, Lacan included in the category of imaginary the illusions, deceptions, optical images, and paradoxes. He includes the imaginary phase is the first baby, imagining himself, getting rid of his fragmented, disintegrated perceptions, and in an illusory way, finding a unity, but an illusory unity. Now, actually, Lacan used linguistics of Saussure and anthropology of Levi-Strauss, to build or to rebuild Freud's theory. Freud developed his approach without Saussure's linguistics and other Jacobson and others, the structural linguistic analysis and structuralist anthropology, whereas Lacan built or reread Freud with these new approaches, and he said that language is involved in the founding of the unconscious. So we already talked about the imaginary. The symbolic, the category of the symbolic included the engagement with, as I said, with structural linguistics, symbolic spacing through difference, and again from linguistics, primacy of the signifier, So the symbolic order is culture. The whole ideology and culture is this symbolic order. So imaginary order, symbolic order, and the real, the order of the real was derived from, again, from actually psychical reality, actually redefined, one and several times. Actually, he says that the real is what resists mirror plays and all attempts at symbolization. So those that are not being being captured in the symbol system, in the culture, and in the imaginary order, that is real. That's real. So, as again in women sociologists, he focuses on the infant, how in the first months, from especially from 6 months old to 18 months old, in that period, yeah, in that period, how infants, as I said, views himself, herself, as if through a mirror. This is also, looking glass period of some, remember, social psychologists. And now in sociology, in the, Lacan versus looking glass of social psychologists, and Lacan's mirror phase, they're contrasting. There are two different approaches. In previous sociological approaches, the mirror is the other. As the baby starts seeing herself, himself, in the eyes of the mother, the father, the siblings, other people, and through the perception of himself, herself, through the eyes of others, she builds their own self, George Herbert Mead, for example, talks about a me and I. So actually, this looking glass self explains the me part, the social self, the social self part. But there is a second, or a first, a primary ego, or I. In George Herbert Mead's terminology, there is an I. There's an I and me. Now, Lacan focuses on I. Now, he thinks that I precedes this social phase where the baby constructs a self in relationship with other people, whereas I is constructed prior to that by a mirror stage, of course, but mirror in this case is optical. Now, of course, this is also a comparison here. Is making an analogy, both in the social psychologist Mead and Cooley. It is also an analogy, the mirror image. In Lacan also, it is an analogy, mirror. Now, Lacan thinks that at one point, when 8 months old or 12 months or old, or in these periods, especially when the baby starts walking, how the baby stands up and perceives himself, herself, as an image. This is the, he says, this is the imaginary order being constructed as ego, as I. So now Lacan stresses that images, this image of himself, herself, is cast within the field of optics. It is in and through a reflecting surface that the subject narcissistically invests its self-image. This contrasts with Cooley or with George Herbert Mead and others. For Lacan, the ego is created as a defensive armor, something you put on yourself to protect yourself against weapons or whatever is coming over you, to protect yourself. Now, he conceives ego as an armor to support the psyche against its otherwise terrifying experiences of fragmentation and fear. So the capture of self, or I, by the subject's reflection in the mirror, is inseparable from what Lacan terms misrecognition of its own truth. Here, there's a recognition of wholeness, but it is a misrecognition because although there is this, the person perceives the whole body, thinks of as a one being, but it is actually, there are many other desires, and it is fragmented. But this illusion is necessary. This illusion of oneness, although it is many. So oneness versus multitude, manyness, but for the child to grow, to have a personality, a self, or in terms of Freud and an ego and a superego, whatever, an illusion of unity is required. Now, I said that he follows actually Saussure. The linguistic sign comprises in linguistics there is this signifier and signified. Lacan argued that in the structuralist linguistics or anthropology, signifieds are important, whereas for Lacan, signifiers themselves. So now Lacan actually inverts the formula, putting the signified under the signifier. So he ascribes primacy in the life of the psyche or subject and society, primacy to the signifier. So there's a movement of signifiers. The position of each of us as individual subjects, this is again from Lacan, is determined by our place in the system of signifiers. Our lives are negotiated through the plane of enunciations. The signifier represents the subject. Signifier is the subject, represents the subject. The primacy of the signifier gösteren ve gösterilen. And he gives importance to gösteren, signifier. Signifier in the constitution of the subject indicates the rooting of unconscious in the language. The rooting of unconscious in the language. Okay, this is really a complex thinking, reasoning, and it is hard to understand Lacan. But as I said, already women sociologists that we talked about, Michel, for example, or Althusser's theory of ideology will be understood better if we understand Lacan and his three orders of imaginary, the imaginary order, symbolic order, and real, and how imaginary in this way. Remember Althusser's definition of ideology. What was it? It was an imaginary relationship of the subjects to their real conditions of existence. So instead of directly relating with the real conditions of existence, people relate themselves to their conditions of existence through ideology. Remember, people, according to Althusser, people are like fish in the sea. People are like fish in the sea. People are embedded within ideology. Everybody is within ideology, except the scientists, social scientists or other scientists, who can break away from ideology or transform or find out non-ideological scientific knowledge through a problematic, through a paradigm, through a scientific methodology, scientific discipline and training of years and years makes people, scientists, social scientists, or natural scientists to be able to break away when they are doing research and analysis, independent of, not a complete 100% break from ideology, but a break enough so that they can produce a knowledge of reality until the next scientist who falsifies it. Yes, science is, we are not able to capture reality 100%, and absolute, we cannot do that. Absolute knowledge of reality is impossible. This is Popper's epistemology. This is a dominant epistemology in social sciences as well as in the natural sciences. So, and I have to also add that, for example, last week when we were talking about Stuart Hall is, as I already told you, is influenced by Althusser. But Althusser is influenced by Lacan, so Stuart Hall is also influenced from Lacan. He also, in order to have to develop his approach in sociology of mass communication, sociology of media, the coding and uncoding of the message. Remember, we discussed last week. Stuart Hall, the Jamaican British sociologist, is also influenced by Stuart Hall, and also among the the contemporary social scientists, Zizek. Zizek is a contemporary philosopher, social scientist, who uses Zizek to interpret contemporary ideology in the films, in the internet, and everywhere. So, and also I talked about Michel's law of the mother, and if you remember, when I was talking about law of the mother, which she focuses, Juliette Michel focuses on horizontal relationships, whereas Lacan talks about this, the law of the father, how subject emerges in relationship to the symbolic order, and how the imaginary and the real are restructured vertically through law of the father, and Juliette Michel complements that horizontally with the law of the mother. Okay, now as you can see, this is complex, but one has to, if you want to deepen your knowledge. Now, if you are planning to have a degree, a master's degree or a PhD degree, you have to go deeper into these issues. Now, let me share with you a few videos where this is being shown. Now, especially, I didn't talk about a concept in Lacan. Now, when I talk father's law, it is the big other, and how small a is object or petit a is related to this big other through this imaginary symbolic and real. Let me show this. This is geometrical Borromean. Now, can you see the A here? Now, let me just a minute. Just a minute. I think you are not seeing this. Yeah, I know. I know. No, just a minute. Just a minute, please. Now, here it is. What happens? You see, okay, now here, let me start from here. These three circles, bromine, it is from mathematics, actually. Now, this person is explaining Lacan through Zizek. Now, you see here, yes, Lacan and Zizek together. Okay. Now, when imaginary and symbolic intersects, there is meaning here. You see, meaning. Now, when imaginary, symbolic and real intersects, there is this area. But when three of them, imaginary, symbolic, and real, intersect here, this Lacan calls this object petit a, small a, object. Now, the object cause of desire. Now, why? What is desire? Because for Freud, as well as for many sociologists or psychologists, desire makes human beings continue doing something. Okay, desire. But where does it come from? And how a desiring subject, a desiring personality is constructed? Now, Lacan explains this three orders, as we discussed already: imaginary, real, and the symbolic, and their intersection of three of them. Okay, now.
Questions that this video will answer. So let's get into the trenches. In the previous video, we saw the concept of the mirror stage. This concept is very important here. For when we have created our ideal I, the ideal image of ourselves that we see in the mirror, we realize that this is not us, but the other. And therefore, we realize that we lack something. We realize that we are not the only object of desire of the other. Of our mother, for example. She also loves Dad. And this makes us envious. For we lack what Dad supposedly has. However, what we think that Dad has that we don't is just an illusion. We can just never be everybody's sole object of desire. The symbolic thing that Dad has that we do not is what Lacan called the phallus.
Just a minute. I think I have to turn this. Just a minute. Just a minute here. Let me make it into English. Here it is. Okay, now again, let's start from here.
Ideal I, the ideal image of ourselves that we see in the mirror, we realize that this is not us, but the other. And therefore, we realize that we lack something. We realize that we are not the only object of desire of the other, of our mother, for example. She also loves Dad. And this makes us envious, for we lack what Dad supposedly has. However, what we think that Dad has that we don't is just an illusion. We can just never be everybody's sole object of desire. The symbolic thing that Dad has that we do not is what Lacan called the phallus. In this case, the phallus is not a literal phallus, but the symbolic representation of the phallus. That which we need to reach to fill our void, our lack, and therefore reach our true enjoyment, our jouissance. The phallus can be better understood on the basis of its function here. In Freudian doctrine, the phallus is not a fantasy if we are to view fantasy as an imaginary effect. Nor is it as such an object, inasmuch as object stands to gauge the reality involved in relationship. Still less is it the organ that it symbolizes. For the phallus is a signifier whose function, in the intrasubjective economy of analysis, may lift the veil from the function it served in the mysteries. For it is the signifier that is destined to designate meaning-effect as a whole, insofar as the signifier conditions them by its presence as signifier. But here is the catch. We try to reach something that we never even had in the first place. This void will always be a void. We never had our perfect jouissance, but we retroactively produce this illusion as soon as restrictions are placed on our enjoyment. These restrictions is what we have seen in the previous video as the symbolic dimension, the big other. The big other in the form of the father, the law, or even God tries to socialize us and create these prohibitions on our jouissance. This process is what Lacan calls castration. Castration means that jouissance has to be refused in order to be attained on the inverse scale of the law of desire. However, we could now ask the question, why would the big other want to prevent our jouissance? And to answer this question, we have to make a small detour to what jouissance actually is. For jouissance is not just enjoyment. It is better understood in the same way we understand surplus value in capitalism, as introduced by Marx. For surplus value is the driving force in the capitalist mode of production. In the same way, jouissance is the surplus enjoyment that drives us subjects. Think of this surplus enjoyment more as pleasure in pain, where you just want more all the time, or what Freud called the death drive. Ironically enough, this is not that you want things to end, but to have them repeat again and again. For example, eating until you are nauseous or washing your hands all the time. Now by this reasoning, you can see why society, or the big other, does not want all these hedonistic subjects that are purely driven by their libido, their blind lust, nor do we want this ourselves. In summary, we want to satisfy our desires all the time to reach our jouissance and replace our lack. The lack that is created in the process of castration via prohibitions by the big other. But the irony is that the desire only emerged after the restrictions of jouissance itself.
You see, the circles here, again here, desire, jouissance here is happiness or satisfaction. But this desire, if it is not restricted, the baby or our unconscious desires everything. But the symbolic order, but society prohibits it. Prohibition. Now, from prohibition, there is this lack, something we are not having. There is something missing. The people or the baby thinks there is something missing in me. I have to find it. So that is desire. I have to find that something missing. But then desire, and then it is being for so that there will be happiness. But it is there is this circle, and from this circle, I and me, or it, ego and superego of Freud, the dynamics of creation of personality. And from here, you can relate this to previous Luhmann's theory, how the psychic circle and the or psychic system and the social system, through meaning, a third system, how they are related to each other, how social system does not emerge without psychic system, and how psychic system cannot emerge without social system. Now, a similar reasoning is involved in Lacan's or Freud's reasoning as well. Okay, if you are interested, you can listen to the rest of it. Let me send this away, and let me stop here. And I was writing here next week's